What makes your podcast profitable? It's the intro, not the hook, but the intro that shows who you are. Your podcast intro is more than just the first few flashy seconds when somebody hits play. It's your brand's handshake with your audience. It's your first impression. A strong podcast intro signals to your viewers that your podcast is intentional, it's worth watching, and it's high value. So I'm going to break down 4 of my personal favorite podcast intros and help you pull out some tips and tricks that you can implement in your own podcast to help you build a better podcast for your brand. But first, who am I? I'm George at Cut the Pod. I've worked with brands like Disney, Meta, the NFL as a video editor over the past 12 years. Today, I focus on helping brands, creators, and businesses build better podcasts. So let's start with the cinematic intro I created for the Professional Human podcast. This is a client of mine who sells high-ticket courses online. And so the perceived value of his brand needs to be elevated immediately. And that's what this intro does.
I hope you enjoyed this episode. Thanks for tuning in.
All these colors we see, the blue, even this beige over here, the white, are his brand colors. And so we use those to build a scene that represents what Brian is at his core, what his brand is, what his brand represents. Every element on screen adds to the personality of the host, builds the value of the brand, and most importantly, sets a high bar for the conversation that follows. All right, next, let's look at the Nicholas Ashball podcast. I made this podcast for Nicholas. I had to communicate who he was in just a few seconds. So who's Nicholas? Nicholas is a psychic who deals with the metaphysical and the unknown, and he does so in a very approachable manner. So how do you showcase that in just a few seconds of a podcast intro? Let's look.
So without any further delay, I'd like to welcome both Matthias and everybody that decided to tune in. Let's get started.
I just love it. It's so simple. You can see the aurora borealis, and that really represents some mystique, some otherworldly space that is bleeding through his brand's font. All this white is intentional. It's because Nicholas, as we mentioned, is a very professional person who's dealing with a matter that a lot of people may feel are hippies, for lack of a better word. And Nicholas brings a really professional, authoritative perspective to this whole world of the psychic and metaphysical unknown. And that's what we do here, is by using kind of this square that's very not so creative at a first glance. The way that it comes on, the way that it plays with the music, all that builds up to what Nicholas represents, how he needs to be perceived, and tells you that this is going to be highly professional. So let's play through one more time. Before we move on, I want to share that I'm looking for 2 brands, businesses, or creators who want to build a better podcast. If you're serious about that, go to cutthepod.com/me. It's right here. And fill out the form. I'll take a look at it and see if we're a good fit to work together. All right, back to it. Let's take a look at an intro that I created for Anita Yokota. Anita is a home therapist and author whose design expertise has led her to being invited to design even the White House. So her intro needs to really showcase her expertise, but more importantly, it needs to showcase her personality.
I'm Anita, your home therapy guide on this journey of creating spaces that not only look good, but feel good.
I just love the way that it came together. It represents all of her brand colors very quickly and easily. This pattern that you see here is a pattern that's infused throughout her brand. It's on her website, it's in her books, it's on her business cards, it's on her email signature. And now it's come to life in her podcast intro. So anyone who's touched Anita's brand at any one point should have familiarity with this. And not only are they going to recognize that it's Anita, they're going to build trust and authority if they don't know it's Anita. Because the quality of this, the way that it comes on, the playful energy, tells you this is Anita. And the more you get to know somebody, the closer you get to purchasing from them. And so all these elements of brand come together to meet up in this podcast intro and send us off into the episode. Set up your expectations. Say, I'm not going to watch this. Or more importantly, I am going to watch this. Remember, your intro is not just the beginning. It's a promise to your audience. So make it count.